Women in the senior service? Not ruddy likely, said the Navy. Then in 1939, surrender, the Women's Royal Naval Service was formed. But only for the war, mind you, as they'd existed for 2 years in the First World War. But now, more than 21 years later, the Wrens are still going strong. Their numbers boasted by more than 1,000 new recruits a year. At their all-female establishment near Reading, oh no, there's one lone naval rating, lucky man, the new recruits have a fortnight's trial period in civvies and then sign on for 4 years. Before they're sent out for specialized training, new entrants are schooled in the ways of the Navy, in grooming and makeup. In ranks and naval history. Unlike the women's branches of the other two services, Wrens have a code of discipline of their own. If a Wren decides to go home, no one can bring her back again. At their peak in 1944, the Wren's strength was 75,000. Today, they're the smallest women's service with a strength of 3,250, compared with 4,500 in the Army and 5,500 in the RAF. Initial training over, others leave to take up the 25 different jobs that Wrens do in the Navy today. Shore-bound jobs, yes, but an important part of the Navy's work nowadays is ashore. They may be sent to Portsmouth, or to naval air stations like this one at Yeovilton. Writers, as Wren clerical categories are called, work in pay offices, in general administration, and they also act as secretaries. The stores branch look after the supply side of the Navy, which includes issuing clothing and food to the boys. Others man switchboards. Others operate the teleprinter services to Admiralty and other naval bases. While radio mechanics maintain equipment for naval aircraft. Nearly 1/4 of naval personnel today work with the Fleet Air Power. Likewise, many Wrens are attached to naval air stations at home and abroad. Wren air mechanics like these two at Yeovilton overhaul and service the Navy's aircraft, including jet fighters. This naval hunter, a jet trainer, is having its oxygen supply replenished for high-altitude flying. And then the Bowser is brought in for refueling. As these aircraft operate at over 700 miles an hour, servicing must be thorough. Each technician, Wren or naval airman, signing for their particular job before the aircraft is allowed to be airborne. Meanwhile, Wrens of the air station's meteorological office release weather balloons and check air temperatures for compiling round-the-clock weather forecasts. One of the 3 Met officers at this station is Second Officer Shirley Evans from Guildford, who prepares an area weather chart. Later, she briefs pilots and instructors about to leave on an all-weather exercise. Officer promotion in the Wrens, by the way, is from the ranks. But for certain specialist branches, there's a direct entry system. From the control tower, communications Wrens keep constant radio contact with all aircraft operating in the area. And when the exercise is finished, the air mechanics are waiting to take over the aircraft. They marshal them in. Brakes. Shock up. And then they help the pilot from his complicated cockpit harness. Another Wren's job is motor transport. 19-year-old Alma Slaney is a staff officer's driver at Portsmouth. Then, there are the wrens attached to the Royal Marines. Marine wrens, they call them. Well, sometimes they're called other things, of course. They're off duty here, by the way. Off duty, too, they go aboard Nelson's Victory in Portsmouth Harbour, one of the many outings the Navy lays on for them. The youngest of the women's services, the Wrens, in 1960 celebrated their 21st birthday with a float in the Lord Mayor's Show. Their reunion at the Festival Hall came the Queen Mother and the Duchess of Kent, their chief commandant. The then director of Wrens, Dame Elizabeth Hoyer Miller, like her successor Jean Davis, used to leave her office at the Admiralty as often as possible to visit the girls of her service. And here she is at the Royal Naval College, Greenwich, with Wren cadets. Apart from the British Isles, Wrens serve in Malta, Gibraltar, and a few at NATO headquarters in Europe. Normally, they're drafted to a different establishment every 2 years. The winter sun of Malta makes shopping a leisurely, all-day affair. Manuela, the mascot of the island's naval supply base, never fails to meet the Wrens as they come on duty. Then, having had her feed, she goes to work herself, pulling the gardener's cart. Being alongside the Navy means plenty of opportunities for sailing. And if it's too rough for a dinghy, well, there's always something a bit bigger to take them out for the day. This complicated radar system in Malta is used for flying pilotless planes. Wrens plot the aircraft's progress, while the naval pilot sitting with them flies it by radio. Probably the most active Wren's job, and it can certainly be the coldest, is teaching air crew safety equipment drill. 26-year-old Second Officer Vivienne Reynolds from London has to show the boys what to do if they land in the drink. She's in her dinghy now, wet, but at least she's afloat. Then the helicopter comes out to look for her. She's conscious and uninjured, so they're going to winch her up. A cable is lowered with a harness attached to it. She gets into the harness, and when she's set, up she comes. Yes, that's all very well, but supposing she were injured and incapable of getting into the harness? The Navy's invented an answer, the scoop net. Vivian's back in the drink again. Down comes the chopper with its scoop trailing behind it. They're going to pick her up, dinghy and all this time. It's a tricky maneuver. Are they going to miss her? No, she's in. And up she comes. All part of a day's work. For the women, yes, that are still in the senior service. And by the look of things, this time they're there for good.